Ecuador came from behind to stun Germany 2-1 at MetLife Stadium, and football's greatest tournament just got a whole lot more interesting. Welcome to FairPlay, Football AI Review. This was the final group stage fixture in Group E, and the stakes could not have been clearer. Germany, sitting top of the group on 6 points, needed only a draw to guarantee progression and protect their remarkable goal difference. Ecuador, on 4 points after 1 win and 1 draw, needed all 3 to have any realistic chance of advancing. A defeat would almost certainly end their World Cup. This was survival football for Latry, and they played it like their lives depended on it. The pre-match narrative centered heavily on Ecuador's captain Ener Valencia, a veteran presence whose physicality and aerial threat Bekasici clearly intended to weaponize against Germany's backline. Germany arrived with 2 unnamed injury absences from their squad, though Nagelsmann still had the firepower to rotate without losing potency. The pressure differential was stark. Ecuador had to attack, Germany could afford to manage. Bekasici set Ecuador in a 4-4-2, a shape designed for compactness and rapid vertical transitions. The 2 banks of 4 sat tight, reducing space in central corridors, with Valencia and Nilson Angulo providing the front-line threat. The plan was clear: stay organized, win the ball quickly, and counter with pace through the channels where Gonzalo Plata and John Yeboah could cause damage. Nagelsmann answered with a 3-4-2-1, a structure built to dominate possession and overwhelm opposition with wide overloads. Kimmich and Raum pushed high as wingbacks, stretching Ecuador's midfield flat, while Wirtz and Musiala operated in the half spaces behind Havertz. Germany's system demands technical control and positional discipline, exactly the qualities they had shown in dismantling Curaçao 7-1 and Slovakia 6-0 in the opening rounds. The tactical mismatch was fascinating. Germany's wingbacks operating against Ecuador's midfield 4 created numerical superiority in wide areas, but Bekasici had clearly drilled his team to drop into a defensive 6 when out of possession. The Ecuadorian forwards pressed high to force errors, preventing Germany from building patiently from the back, and that pressing trap would prove decisive early. Germany controlled the opening exchanges with the confidence of a team that had conceded just 3 goals in their 2 previous matches combined. They moved the ball with authority in those first 60 seconds. Kimmich and Pavlovic dictating tempo, and it seemed like the South Americans might be overawed by the occasion. But Nagelsmann's side were dangerous from the very first moment, and so were Ecuador. Then came the sucker punch. Germany struck in the 2nd minute. Florian Wirtz played a crisp layoff to Leroy Sané, cutting inside from the right, and Sané rolled the ball low past the diving right hand of Hernan Galíndez from inside the box. Clean, clinical, devastating. It was Germany's earliest World Cup goal since 1934, and it immediately shifted the dynamic of everything Ecuador had planned. But here is where this Ecuador side showed genuine character. 7 minutes later, Moisés Caicedo and Pedro Vite linked intelligently in the German half, and Vite picked up a loose ball before feeding Nilson Angulo on the edge of the penalty area. Angulo found space to shoot just outside the D and fired through the legs of Alexander Pavlovic and beyond the dive of Manuel Neuer to equalize. A stunning response, and the crowd of 80,663 at MetLife roared its approval. Before the leveler, Germany had been pushing for a second through Musiala's movement, and Havertz had a presentable chance inside the box that he directed straight at Galíndez. Ener Valencia also struck the woodwork in a frantic opening quarter of an hour, underlining just how end-to-end this match had become. Ecuador's expected goals figure of 1.99 by full time tells you they were genuinely threatening all evening. The final 10 minutes of the first half turned increasingly physical. Hincapié was booked in the 43rd minute for a serious foul on Leroy Sané, and just 60 seconds later Pavlovic received a yellow card for a foul on Valencia in a moment that would have consequences at half-time. That card made Pavlovic a liability, and Nagelsmann took the decision to withdraw him at the interval. Nagelsmann acted immediately at half-time, replacing the booked Pavlovic with Angelo Stiller. It was a pragmatic call, protecting his midfielder from a second yellow while reinforcing the midfield's passing structure. Stiller brought composure and helped Germany re-establish their rhythm in possession, and for the first 15 minutes of the second period, the Germans pushed hard for what would have been a match-winning lead. Germany's double change on the hour altered the match significantly. Joshua Kimmich came off, handing the captain's armband to Antonio Rüdiger, and was replaced by Malik Thiaw. Simultaneously, Kai Havertz was withdrawn for Deniz Undav, Nagelsmann seeking more directness in the final third. Kimmich's departure removed Germany's primary ball carrier from deep, and the passing rhythm Germany had enjoyed began to disintegrate. Ecuador responded to Germany's reorganization with their own tactical adjustment at 64 minutes. Beccacheche brought on Angelo Preciado and Kevin Rodriguez simultaneously, replacing Alan Franco and the visibly tiring Enner Valencia. Rodriguez's fresh legs and direct running immediately stretched Germany's defensive line, and within 13 minutes he would produce the assist that decided the match. 7 minutes later, Pervis Estupiñán came on for Piero Hincapié in the 71st minute, adding defensive solidity on the left side and allowing Ecuador to maintain their shape as they sensed something special was possible. Then, 6 minutes later, it happened. In the 77th minute, Kevin Rodriguez's instinctive flicked header redirected the ball perfectly into the path of Gonzalo Plata, who kept his composure magnificently and poked the ball past Neuer with his left foot to put Ecuador 2-1 up. It was a striker's goal of real quality, precisely timed, expertly finished. The stadium erupted. Ecuador were winning a World Cup group stage match against Germany. Germany threw everything at Ecuador in the final quarter of an hour. Pascal Gross came on for Wirtz in the 73rd minute before the second goal, adding direct delivery, and Maximilian Bayer had entered in the 64th. Gross tested Galíndez from distance in stoppage time, and Undav had a chance in the 92nd minute, but Ecuador's defensive lines held with remarkable discipline. Galíndez made 8 saves across the full 90 minutes, an extraordinary individual performance under siege. The decisive moment of the entire match was Rodriguez's involvement in that 77th-minute winner. Beccacheche's decision to bring on a 26-year-old sub specifically to inject energy and directness in the final third proved inspired. Rodriguez had been on the pitch fewer than 15 minutes, had already had 5 shots of his own, and then produced the flick that broke German resistance. Germany dominated possession 61% to 39%, completing 517 accurate passes to Ecuador's 312, but those numbers flattered them badly. Ecuador's pass accuracy of 83% was respectable and, crucially, every meaningful ball they played in the final third led to genuine danger. Possession without penetration is ultimately worthless. Germany managed 11 shots to Ecuador's 7, but their expected goals of just 0.97 compared to Ecuador's 1.99 is the most damning statistic of the evening. Nagelsmann's side created half the expected danger of their opponents, despite controlling the ball for nearly 2/3 of the game. Sané's opener came from their clearest chance. Beyond that, their attack was blunt and predictable. Ecuador's 7 shots yielded a higher XG because they arrived from better positions with more conviction. Defensively, Ecuador were simply outstanding. 26 tackles compared to Germany's 20 tells you how combative and committed they were. William Pacho was commanding at the heart of the backline, making 4 tackles and winning every aerial duel. Joel Ordóñez was imperious alongside him. Germany's vaunted attacking trio of Musiala, Wirtz, and Sané were largely contained. Musiala managed just 1 shot and 0 on target across 90 minutes. For Ecuador, the standout performer has to be Moisés Caicedo. The Chelsea midfielder completed 235 passes, made 8 tackles, and was the engine of everything his team did. He was everywhere, breaking up German build-up, carrying the ball forward, and setting the intensity level that dragged his teammates into a higher gear throughout the 90 minutes. On the German side, Leroy Sané was their most dangerous player despite the collective disappointment. His second-minute strike was pure class, 1 touch, perfect technique, low and hard into the corner, and he completed 49 passes and made 2 tackles. Florian Wirtz created the assist before being withdrawn, and while he showed flashes of quality, he was snuffed out too often by Ecuador's organized defensive block. The player who underperformed most visibly in this match was Jamal Musiala. One of the most gifted midfielders in European football, his influence was almost non-existent. 1 shot, 0 on target, 1 foul, just 2 tackles across a full 90 minutes. Ecuador's defensive structure nullified him completely, and he rarely found the pockets of space that make him so devastating for Bayern Munich. Nagelsmann's tactical approach deserves scrutiny. His 3-4-2-1 relied on width and technical superiority, but against a compact 4-4-2 with fast wingers, the wing-backs were often isolated and the half-spaces clogged. His substitutions at 60 minutes felt like a reaction to a problem rather than a prepared solution, and the double change disrupted Germany's rhythm at precisely the moment they needed to reassert control. This was only the second competitive meeting between these nations in World Cup history. Germany beat Ecuador in the 2006 group stage in Berlin, a result that began a long German era of dominance in major tournament football. Ecuador's victory here reverses that historical imbalance and gives them genuine psychological currency over a side that has routinely been one of world football's elite powers. Ecuador's recent form entering this match told an interesting story. 4 draws in their previous 5 competitive outings before this tournament suggested a resilient but not always ruthless side. The win over Argentina earlier in their recent run, however, showed they can beat elite opposition. Their World Cup campaign opened with a defeat to Côte d'Ivoire and a draw with Curaçao before this stunning victory, a trajectory that shows a team finding its form at exactly the right time. Germany arrived in New Jersey on the back of 2 convincing wins, 7-1 against Curaçao and 2-1 against Côte d'Ivoire. That form suggested a well-drilled, high-functioning machine. But this defeat exposed real vulnerabilities in their ability to break down deep defensive blocks, and their XG of under 1 in a match they needed to manage carefully is a warning signal ahead of the knockout rounds. The qualification picture after this result is compelling. Ecuador moved to 4 points, and crucially advanced to the last 32. Germany will now face a third-place team from groups A, B, C, D, or F in the last 32, while Ecuador's knockout opponent remains to be determined. Germany face their round of 32 opponent on the 29th of June, and whoever emerges from those third-place positions will likely sense an opportunity against a German side that showed genuine defensive frailty. Ecuador's remaining path is equally unpredictable, but Bekashishi's team now carry the confidence of a team that came from behind to beat one of world football's premier nations. My prediction is this: Germany will advance through the knockout rounds, their squad depth and tactical intelligence will reassert themselves, and this defeat may prove the wake-up call Nagelsmann needed. Ecuador, however, have earned their place in the last 32 and carry enough firepower and defensive organization to upset at least one more established side before their tournament ends. Plata, Caicedo, and Galíndez are world-class operators. Ecuador 2, Germany 1, a result that captures everything that makes this World Cup so enthralling. A team written off before kickoff refused to accept the script, absorbed an early shock, and found the quality and resilience to deliver one of the tournament's great performances. Germany's extraordinary goal tally of 10 in their previous 2 matches masked real structural fragility, and Ecuador exposed it with ruthless efficiency. Thank you for watching FairPlay, Football AI Review. Germany will regroup and remain dangerous, but this Ecuador side have announced themselves to the world. The knockout stage is set, the giant killers are among us, and we will be back to break down every minute of what comes next. That's the FairPlay verdict on this one. If you want more analysis like this, follow us, find us on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at FairPlay AI, and follow Anthony personally on X at Anthony Fairplay. See you next match.